All right, let's go ahead and get to this next piece about Comey, because this is, I think, pretty important. So just to back up for a second, Sagar and I covered previously that the U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia, which is probably one of the most important jurisdictions in the country. It's right here across the river. They do all kinds of national security cases, et cetera. In any case, that U.S. attorney, who was handpicked by Trump, was forced out, seemingly because he would not bring spurious cases against Trump's enemies. We also had, which we also covered, Trump posting to Truth Social a message that
perhaps accidentally,
that appeared like maybe he meant to send it directly to Pam Bondi, but he posted it openly, basically saying like, you got to go after Comey, you got to go after Schiff, you got to go after Letitia James.
Hire this woman Lindsay.
What's going on? We're bringing in this woman Lindsay. She's really great, etc. So putting direct pressure in public, whether it was meant to be or not, on Pam Bondi. I mean, look, in another world, this would be impeachment worthy. And I mean, truly, it
yes.
genuinely would be. And instead, we're like, 10 news cycles later. In any case, so U.S. Attorney, go ahead.
The Saturday Night Massacre,
yeah,
which was for 50 years the biggest political scandal in this country, was when Nixon fired some Justice Department officials because they weren't doing what he wanted. And
right.
It was a decades-long cataclysmic constitutional rupture.
Yes.
And it was nowhere near as bad as what Trump is doing.
Right. Trump on Maine posting, like, you need to go after my political opponents. What is going on and why hasn't this happened yet? And now, lo and behold, brings in this lady, Lindsay Halligan, who has never prosecuted a case.
Insurance lawyer,
former pageant girl, participated in one of the Trump beauty pageants, apparently. Okay. In any case, he's brought her in, and she is apparently willing to do some of this. So now MSNBC, which this is another interesting thing that you were pointing out, they have Carol Lennick now, who is a real reporter, teaming up with Ken Talanian, who is more of a typically like a Democratic administration stenographer. But in any case, them teaming up and breaking the story about charges against Comey are likely to be filed in the next few days, along with they're trying to get Letitia James on these sort of bogus mortgage fraud charges, which they've also tried to go after her, Adam Schiff, and Lisa Cook, who is a Fed board governor, over similar like, oh, you said it was your primary residence, but it wasn't really your primary residence thing. In any case, let's take a listen to MSNBC's Ken Talanian detailing a bit of this.
The office is expected to charge Tish James, the New York Attorney General, with mortgage fraud. And of course, Donald Trump, we all saw it posted on Truth Social in recent days, exhorting his Attorney General to charge both of those people as soon as possible. Again, this is, grand juries are secret. This is a fluid situation. It's also important to know, though, that the U.S. Attorney, the Trump-appointed U.S. Attorney in this office, Eric Siebert, was essentially forced out last week, in part because he was refusing to bring these cases. We're told that he was opposed to prosecuting both James and Comey on these grounds.
Put the next piece up on the screen. Talanian also writes some of the details here. Former FBI Director Jim Comey, for years the target of President Trump's ire, expected to be indicted in the coming days in the Eastern District of Virginia. Full extent of the charges being prepared is unclear. Sources believe at least one element of the indictment, if it goes forward, will accuse him of lying to Congress during his testimony on September 30th, 2020, about whether he authorized a leak of information. 5-year statute of limitations on that charge would lapse on Tuesday. Ryan, I tried to dig into the specifics of what they're saying Comey lied about, and, it looks like they don't have more than what's in the public sphere, given the fact that this previous handpicked U.S. attorney was like, I can't charge him. There's not enough there. But effectively, he claimed, he stood by earlier testimony where he had said he had never authorized these particular leaks to the press. They're saying they have contradictory evidence. There's some question about whether or not that was true. But remember, if you're going to be found guilty of lying under oath, it requires that, it requires specific intent, that you knew you were wrong. I mean, it's a pretty high legal bar here, and one that apparently the previous Trump-picked U.S. attorney did not feel that they had met.
And maybe they're going to end up going with contempt of Congress, which would be a vaguer type thing. Usually contempt means you got a subpoena and you refuse to show up.
Yeah.
Because maybe they can't quite nail perjury. The timing is key. The testimony that you're referring to was September of 2020.
Right.
And the clock is about to tick on the statute of limitations.
Like literally next week or something.
5 years is very soon. And so basically he was asked if he leaked this information, what he did, and Comey is a slippery dude. And Comey, from my perspective, has basically abused his power at the FBI his entire career.
Helped get Trump elected.
And also helped get Trump elected. No gratitude at all for Comey. Because if the data is quite clear. If Comey had not done both of those press conferences going after Hillary, both helped Trump, he doesn't end up winning by the 40,000 votes or whatever he won by.
Right.
So we're in a completely different world if Comey had not abused his power. So that aside, the question was, did you leak these memos about your interactions with President Trump, particularly when Trump had lunch with him and told him, go easy on my guy, Mike Flynn. That winds up in the New York Times. What he had done is he'd gotten his car right afterwards, typed up a memo, and then he gave it to a friend of his. And then after he was out of office, and so this is another argument that he makes for why this was fine, he authorized his friend to leak them to the New York Times. So he did not personally leak them.
Was it McCabe that leaked them?
I think it's Richmond, Dan Richmond or something like that. That guy, whoever that was, he's a professor somewhere. He did an interview with the prosecutors like 2 or 3 weeks ago. That's been reported. And so it was after that interview where they're like, we just have nothing here. And didn't file anything. People can go back and read his September 2020 testimony. My recollection is that he did say, I did give it to this guy. Like he acknowledged that. Like he sound like if you go back and read the testimony, he sounds like a guy who's being deliberately misleading.
Yeah.
But is trying to stay on the legal side of perjury.
Yeah.
And so maybe that's why they'll end up going with contempt.
Pretty much happens every day in this.
Yeah, that's called congressional testimony.
Yeah, that's the way this works. I mean, and I think it's important to lay out those details. I think it's also important to say it's really not about the details.
Of course it's not.
Trump
Give me something.
hates this guy, wants to go after him, made that crystal clear to Pam Bondi, and now they are, along with Letitia James. On the mortgage, quote-unquote, mortgage fraud thing with Letitia James that they may be trying to indict her over. So the claim is, and there's this one guy at the Federal Housing Authority, who, Bill Pulte, who's like feeding this stuff to Trump about Schiff, Tish James, and Lisa
He's going
Cook.
through everybody's mortgage records, yeah.
And with Tish James in particular, it seems like they really don't have a leg to stand on because at least what's reportedly happened is there was a mistake in a mortgage application she was actually trying to help, I think it was maybe her daughter, it was a relative, get a house here. And there was a mistake that said it would be her primary residence. And she emailed the person she was working with, was like, no, this is not my, this would not be my primary residence. So there's clear documentation that there was maybe a filing paperwork mistake that was made that she immediately tried to clear up. And the idea is that if it's your primary residence, you get a better mortgage interest rate. Something Trump would know a lot about as someone who engaged in routine real estate fraud with regard to, inflating assets and deflating assets and doing whatever that was beneficial for him for getting a loan or lowering his taxes, et cetera. Something that Tish James actually went after him for. So that's the crux of the idea of, I guess, what they would go after Tish James. Now, the other question is whether or not a grand jury is actually going to, indict. Now, they say a grand jury will indict a ham sandwich, but we have seen with this administration several noteworthy times, including with the sandwich guy here in D.C., where they were like, no, we're not going to charge him. Not going to do it. Now, D.C. is a different jury pool than, the Eastern District of Virginia, somewhat. I mean, D.C. is the most liberal jurisdiction in the country, but Northern Virginia is also pretty liberal. So it's not crazy to imagine that you could have a grand jury look at this and be like, we're not going along with this. The requirement at justice is supposed to be that you have an expectation at trial, a jury would find them guilty. And Delanian also reported that there was a memo that was sent to this new U.S. attorney saying that charges should not be brought against Comey. There's not enough evidence to establish probable cause a crime was committed, let alone enough to convince a jury to convict him. So sort of career prosecutors there put this memo together for her, and she's like, well, the big guy wants me to do it, so I'm
doing it.
Yep.
Yeah. I wonder if any of those, what those lawyers are going to do. It would be amazing. Like, I don't think she'll be able to pull it off. Like, I don't think she'll be able to get a grand jury or a judge to sign off on this. But if she did, it would be truly amazing because I don't expect that these prosecutors who are, these are Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts, like whatever you think of them, like these types of prosecutors, I don't think that they would participate in it. And so this insurance lawyer would have to bring the case herself.
Who's never prosecuted.
This would be her
case.
first criminal case.
And
like I said, I don't think it gets past the indictment phase, but if it did, be quite a spectacle.
Yeah, but it's important to say, like, if the federal government goes after you in this way at all, even if it doesn't make it to trial, even if you're found innocent or trial, whatever, I mean, it ruins your life. Then that's the intent, right?
Yeah.
It's meant to ruin your life, put you through ruinous discovery, have you, rack up ruinous legal bills, and just imagine that you had this federal government targeting you directly and in their sights. Like that would be a terrifying experience, and that's exactly what is meant to be done here. And I mean, it's openly admitted effectively by Trump.
And you saw Ken Martin, who they wanted to make the U.S. Attorney for D.C., but he couldn't get through the Senate, so they now gave him like
Ed
3
Martin,
jobs.
right?
Ed Martin, yeah. They gave him like Ken Martin's a DNC guy.
That's right.
Gave him like 3 jobs inside the Justice Department, the weaponization of the Justice Department, and he came after, at the apparent request of Alex Jones, and the FBI agent who was first on the scene at Sandy Hook, and said he was now under investigation, wanted a bunch of information from the guy, and his boss told him, no, Todd Blanche, I believe it was, was like, oh no, we're not doing Alex Jones's handiwork on Sandy Hook. Are you nuts? And so they completely withdrew this letter. But still, the fact that Alex Jones can call the DOJ and get them to try to reopen Sandy Hook.
Oh my God.
Shows how weaponized,
how far gone we are,
this institution is.
Yeah. Well, there's one last interesting clip I just want to play for you of Peter Navarro. And this is interesting because, of course, the right has been claiming that, the Biden administration, the Obama administration, that they're the ones who weaponized the Justice Department against them and against Trump. And, it's not like they don't have any case to make there.
They indicted him a bunch of times.
Yeah.
And they did that whole Russiagate thing.
They did. They certainly did. And so they've been saying, we're going to end this weaponization. They weaponize the government against us, et cetera, et cetera. And then you have Trump just brazenly, like, blowing past any sort of plausible deniability and weaponizing not just the Department of Justice, the entire government against his political
Federal
enemies.
Housing Administration.
Yeah, the Federal Housing Administration, the friggin' HHS has an anti-Semitism task force, right? I mean, what are we talking about here? So in any case, Casey Hunt over at CNN asked Peter Navarro to explain that inconsistency. Let's go ahead and take a listen to what he had to say.
Great to be with you. And it is kind of funny. I mean, I did go to prison. I did go to prison for honoring the Constitution, and I'm the only one. And meanwhile, there's a lot of people out there who should be in prison, in my judgment, and I think in the judgment of many people in the Trump administration. James Comey's at the top of that list. Now, I don't have any inside knowledge.
Is what's going on with James Comey, how is it not basically the same thing that you're saying happened to you?
Because he broke the law and I didn't. Simple as that. Let me lay this out for you. The big picture here, and again, I don't know what he would be charged with. There's so many things.
Our reporting is perjury.
There's so many things.
So specifically, just as a refresher, Navarro spent 4 months in prison for 2 misdemeanor counts of contempt of Congress. He defied a subpoena from the House Select Committee investigating January 6th. He refused to appear for a deposition or produce requested documents related to his role in efforts to challenge the 2020 election results, and was sentenced to 4 months in prison and fined $9,500, according to Grok. So basically, they subpoenaed him, and he just was like, no, I'm not showing up. I mean, that's pretty brazen, you know, in terms of securing a conviction against someone that's pretty brazen. So what I've seen, Ryan, is on the free speech stuff, basically, some parts of the right will try to do an intellectual, like, oh, well, here's why it's different, and it's not the same, and they did it, and we're doing something completely different. But I see a lot of just like, yeah, they did it to us, we're going to do it back to them. Yeah. And, and we're going to come at them 10 times harder than they ever could have come at us. And you guys were out there pressuring and getting people canceled over like COVID misinformation or whatever. Well, we're going to kick Jimmy Kimmel off the air, and we have no regrets about it whatsoever. That's where I see a lot of the energy on the right, basically being not trying to hold any sort of consistent ideological principle, just pure vengeance kind of energy.
And also zero sum. I saw Steve Bannon in his show last night saying citing these Hakeem Jeffries comments where Hakeem Jeffries said, look, let me remind you that the statute of limitations, runs beyond this Trump administration. So if you're committing crimes now, look out, there could be accountability, which is the irony here of like Hakeem Jeffries doing absolutely nothing to resist the Trump administration.
Right.
And then claiming he's going to do something in the future.
Yeah.
It's kind of the worst of all worlds.
Yeah.
So what Ben is saying, look at that. What Jeffries is saying is that they are going to re-weaponize the Justice Department again when they take power, and they're going to come after all of us. We're all going to jail if we don't put them in jail first.
Yeah.
Like that's his argument. He's like, and while we move so slow, he said, the Democrats, they move with alacrity.
Oh my God, please.
Which it's funny how what different worlds we all live in, because like if you
He
ask,
doesn't believe that. He can't believe that.
there's no way he believes that because he watched
He's actually
Merrick Garland.
intelligent. Yeah.
I mean, he is one of the few people that he did go to prison.
Yeah.
So I'm sure he's got his own perspective on it, colored by the fact that he actually was behind bars leading up to the election for the same thing as Navarro.
Refusing to testify.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we'll see if Democrats have
Democrats move with alacrity.
Yeah, incredible.
I'm gonna have to look up alacrity because that's not my.
It's not your understanding of what that term means. Yes. It's not embodied by Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries.
Hey, if you like that video, hit the like button or leave a comment below. It really helps get the show to more people.
And if you'd like to get the full show ad-free and in your inbox every morning, you can sign up at breakingpoints.com.
That's right. Get the full show, help support the future of independent media at breakingpoints.com.